So if you've been watching my videos even a little bit, even with my very, very brief YouTube history, you're probably aware that Nynaeve is my girl. I love her. She is far and away my favorite character. And so I thought I would make a video discussing some of my favorite Nynaeve moments. And I actually have a sneaking suspicion that some, if not most, of the items on my list will probably surprise a lot of people. Nynaeve has a lot of awesome moments where she does really big and important things, and those moments are great and I love them. But a lot of my favorite moments with Nynaeve are smaller character focused moments that may not particularly stand out for a lot of people. And sorry, but once again I am going to have to give a spoiler warning for this video. This video is going to contain spoilers through to, I believe it is, the Fires of Heaven. Nope. So if you have not read up to the Fires of Heaven, I would suggest you go now. But as always, more than welcome to come back and watch later. Additionally, if you've watched any of my list videos, you will likely have noticed that I suck at ranking things. It is really hard for me to place my favorites in any sort of order. So this time around, I thought I'd try something a bit more scientific. I have a couple of friends who work in tech, and I asked them for some help in developing a kind of like an algorithm or like an app. I really don't understand the technical side of it. So, you know, they just installed this like Lesbonomics app on my phone. So basically, okay, well, actually, you know what? You'll see how it works when we get there. Okay, so the first moment I want to talk about is from The Eye of the World. Nynaeve has been given the task of cutting horse lines in order to aid in the rescue of one of the boys from the White Cloaks. And this is one of the first times we're in Nynaeve's head. I think we've been in her head once before, but for the most part, we've seen her from the perspective of Rand. So we've seen her as an intimidating figure. She has been kind and caring at times, but she is mostly intimidating and kind of overbearing and domineering. But now we are in her head, and we are still just starting to understand who she is. So she's going along the line of White Cloak horses, and she's cutting the lines, and she's becoming more and more afraid, which is fascinating to see, because up until this point, like I said, she's been very intimidating and has seemed very self-assured. But now we are seeing her feel afraid and terrified. She knows that at any moment a horse could make a noise that would alert the White Cloaks that she's there. And she thinks to herself that she could stop before she's done. She's done enough, cut enough lines to cause a big enough problem, and that, you know what, everyone would understand and think that she was right to have stopped. But in this moment, we see her decide to continue because she doesn't want Lan to think less of her. And okay, it's kind of sweet that, you know, she cares what Lan thinks, but I also think it is very telling how much she cares about what other people think of her. It's not a self-assured thing. She is doing it to impress other people. But for me, actually, the part of the scene that I love is that we get to see Nynaeve's intelligence, her improvisational skills. She sees Bella at the end of the line of horses, and this is a surprise to her, and she realizes that this means that Egwene must be here. Even in the midst of this fear that she's feeling, she puts a puzzle together. She realizes that Egwene is with whichever boy it is that's in the camp, and that she will need to not only cut the horse lines, but she's going to need to take Bella and steal another horse, because they will not be able to escape if anyone has to ride double. Now, maybe this is just me, but I honestly don't think that I would have had the presence of mind in this moment to put all of that together. Okay, and not only is she super clever in this moment, but when the lightning strikes, which, by the way, may have been her channeling, not Moraine. This is never made clear, but it's quite possible that Nynaeve caused the first lightning strikes herself. But okay, anyway, when the lightning strikes, she manages to hold two horses who are trying to run in opposite directions. My girl's got some muscle on her. I love this moment because it highlights her strength of will and body and her intelligence. Okay, so now that we have a moment, I will show you how this system works. Basically, I input the moment into the Lesbonomics app on my phone, and in a moment I should receive the results. So I'm going to input Nynaeve cuts the horse lines in Eye of the World. and waiting as it processes. And the results are, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. According to the Lesbonomics algorithm, the Nynaeve cuts the horse lines moment is equivalent to the perfect pancake flip. Okay, so that's interesting. I perhaps should have given more guidance in the creation of this algorithm because I'm not quite sure what to do with that. But okay, I guess we can just move on to a moment from the Great Hunt. Nynaeve, Elaine, and Min are going to free Egwene from the Seanchan. Elaine and Min are obviously part of this plan, but from what we see, it does seem to be mainly Nynaeve's plan. She has come up with it, and she is taking the most active role in this rescue. So, of course, just like in the previous moment, it's great because we're seeing Nynaeve's intelligence and her ability to think on her feet. But in the midst of all of this, there are two sort of throwaway lines that stick out to me. In the beginning, before they have captured the Soldam, Nynaeve thinks to herself that if anything goes wrong, she is determined to pull focus to herself in order to let Elaine and Min escape. Now, it could be that she is deceiving herself. We do see her do that a couple of times, more than a couple of times in these books, but I honestly don't think so in this moment. In several scenes in these books, we see that Nynaeve is willing to sacrifice herself for her friends. There's a moment in a later book where she's captured by Moghedien in Tel'aran'rhiod, and she has no way to warn Elaine that any danger has happened, so she literally tries to get Moghedien to kill her, because her death is the only way she can think of to get word to Elaine. So I think she's absolutely sincere here. The other part of this moment that I love is how deeply disgusted Nynaeve is by the Idam. The others obviously think it is an evil thing, but Nynaeve, okay, well, in the books, it actually says that her stomach heaves when she realizes what it is, that it took her self-control to not claw it off of her wrist. And also, when she realizes how pathetic, and I mean that in the most literal sense of the word, how pathetic the Idam makes the Damane, the text says that Nynaeve realized something. She could never make Elaine wear that collar. I know this isn't the point of the scene. It's almost a throwaway line, but I love it. I love what this tells us about Nynaeve and who she is. That injustice and cruelty, they actually disgust her. It physically disgusts her. And it makes that moment when, after Egwene has been rescued and she puts on the bracelet and briefly tortures her former captor, when Nynaeve stops her and tells her to not become like that, it has more resonance now because we know this about Nynaeve now. And throughout the books, we see this. Her reaction to injustice and to cruelty and to pain and to sickness, it's visceral. She can't help but react. She can't help but try to fix it because it disgusts her. I love that about her. Okay, so putting this moment into the Lesbonomics app, the rescue of Egwene in the Great Hunt, and it's processing, and okay, so according to this algorithm, which my techie friends assured me was accurate, this moment is, I'm just going to read it from the app here. This moment is creme brulee, specifically cracking the surface of your creme brulee with a spoon. Okay, I'm going to have to call them and see if we can tweak this app a bit because I don't know, but I guess it's what we have for now. All right, the next moment on my list is from The Dragon Reborn. And actually, it's kind of two moments, but they are close to each other. Okay, so Nynaeve is out shopping for meat, and she bumps into Julian Sandar, the man that they've hired to help them find the Black Aja sisters in Tyr. Okay, so he walks with her back to the place where they're staying, and turns out it's a trap. The Black Aja are there, and they're waiting for Nynaeve. They've already captured Egwene and Elaine, and they shield Nynaeve right away. And Liandrin comes in all smug. She's practically twirling, well, she doesn't have a mustache, but she's practically twirling her mustache. You know, she's ready to do a typical villain monologue when Nynaeve goes off and she punches Liandrin in the mouth. And then she hits another Black Adja sister so hard that, okay, I'm just going to quote it here because it's amazing. She hits her so hard that, it says, the black-haired woman fell on her silk-covered rump with a grunt. It's brilliant because, like, I love it because you know that the Black Adja sisters never expected anyone to get physical. They are used to the power, and for a moment this actually works. They don't know how to react. But, of course, there are too many of them, and Nynaeve can't escape. But I love it anyway, because it's a reflection of the fact that Nynaeve doesn't rely on the power. She hasn't mastered it yet, and has spent most of her life without it. And even now that she has it, she can't necessarily control it. So she uses other resources, and it's great. It's also hilarious. Okay, and then, of course, they are taken to the Stone of Tyr and they're imprisoned. And Egwene does some Teleron Riyadh stuff and manages to shield Amiko, one of the other Black Adja sisters. But somehow shielding Amiko hasn't released the shields that have been placed on our girls. So Nynaeve, once again, reaches into her grab bag of solutions and comes out with Abraca Face Punch. She punches Amiko in the face and it releases their shields. And it actually stills Amiko. She punched the ability to channel out of one of the Black Adja sisters. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's hilarious. It's awesome. I love it. Has that ever been done in the history of this world before, that somebody has had the ability to channel punched out of them? I hope not, because I want Nynaeve to have been the only person to do that. It's amazing. Okay, so all right. I'm going to put this moment into the Lesbonomics app. Nynaeve and company captured and escaping in Tyr. Okay, processing. And okay. According to this app, this moment is thinking of a comeback in the moment. Okay, I can actually see that. I think I'm starting to understand this app. The next moment on my list is one that I think would be on most people's Nynaeve list. And that is Nynaeve's battle with Moghedien in the Panarch's palace. This moment is just like dripping with awesome sauce. Everything about the way Nynaeve fights here is incredible. Even the fact that she shoots first is also awesome. She attacks Moghedien first before she even knows who the woman is. She has this like residual instinct left from when Moghedien used compulsion on her, and her instinct has her lash out first. And that's amazing. I love being in Nynaeve's head during this battle because, okay, well, for one thing, you need to be in the head of a channeler to see what's happening, because otherwise it's just two women staring at each other, which I am so excited to see this scene when the show comes out, but also really nervous about it. But I also kind of just hope that at some point they cut away to a non-channeler during the scene, because like I've talked about this with people on Discord. That would be just really funny. You'd see this epic battle and then just like there's a woman in the background like picking up dishes or something, because to her it's literally just two women standing and looking at each other. But okay, there's this humongous channeling battle happening, and it's so interesting and gripping to read. But then there's the reason I'm actually including it on this list. We see Nynaeve's character, her personality, her struggle in this fight. She's terrified. She is fighting for her life, and she has these intrusive thoughts about having her neck stretched like a chicken being slaughtered, and like she's quaking in her boots, but she's fighting just the same. But then of course we have the moment of realization, when Nynaeve realizes that she is Moghedien's equal in the power, and it's this leveling up moment for Nynaeve. She's been told that she is strong, but this is a clear measure of her power, both for her and for us, the readers. And it's amazing. And of course, you have yet another incident of Nynaeve using the Abraca Face Punch. I mean, she doesn't actually punch Moghedien. She throws a domination band in her face. But it's once again Nynaeve using physical means to fight a magic user who wouldn't expect it. And in that moment, we actually see more of Nynaeve's character. It says that she expected Nynaeve to go for her throat, because that's what Nynaeve would have done if she had been thrown off balance and like sort of lost her place in the weave. she would have kept fighting physically. So this is yet more confirmation that Nynaeve will use every resource at her disposal in a fight. She's a channeler, yes, but she is not above using physical force to win, and that's amazing. Of course, Moghedien just takes off and manages to escape, but still, this battle was awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put this one into the app. Nynaeve and Moghedien's battle in the Panarch's Palace. And just wait while it processes. And the results are, this moment is hitting that high note perfectly when singing karaoke. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. That's what this moment is. Perfectly. Okay, I think I will do one more moment because 5 just feels like a good number for a list for some reason to me. So the final moment I'm going to talk about is from the Lord of Chaos. Nynaeve and Elaine are in Saladar, and of course, Nynaeve is still blocked at this moment. She is working with this other Aes Sedai, Theodrin, to try and break her block. And Theodrin is trying everything, and Nynaeve is becoming more and more disheartened. She actually thinks to herself that it is so disheartening to try and try and try and fail. And Theodrin has tried multiple things. She's tried like shock and alcohol, and nothing has worked. And she has this idea that maybe sleep deprivation could work. So she has ordered Nynaeve to not sleep. And we are in Nynaeve's head when it's time for bed. So we hear Nynaeve think to herself that, you know what, there's no way Theodrin would know if she slept, so she's gonna sleep. But then she gets up and she begins pacing the floor, determined to keep herself awake. And again, we hear her thoughts. She thinks to herself that it would be so wonderful to be able to channel whenever she wanted. And we hear that she never even notices the tears that begin leaking down her cheeks. And in this moment, you begin to understand how much her block has hurt Nynaeve. She puts on this brave face. She doesn't let other people see how hard this is for her, especially now that she knows how powerful she can be, but she can't access this power. She sees everyone around her growing and developing their skills, and she is held back by something that she can't seem to control, something that her effort and all of her will can't get her past. We have this sort of myth in our culture that says, like, if you just try hard and do your best, you can accomplish anything. And I don't like this myth because it's just not true. There are some times and some things that you can try your best at and fail, and it sucks so much. If you half-ass something and you fail, it's fine. But when you put 100% of yourself into something and it fails, it bottoms out, it is demoralizing. It makes you want to give up. It makes you feel like you failed as a person. And we know that Nynaeve is a 100% person. She doesn't half-ass things. So I'm sure that this explains some of her snippiness, even if she doesn't realize it. Anyway, that very night, a bubble of evil appears in Saladar, and Nynaeve is among those who fight the bubble, and it's epic, and it's amazing, and it's powerful, and it's awesome, and it's, of course, not the point of this scene for me. After they've finished the fight, Nynaeve is drained. She is completely exhausted, and she's barely able to stand, and she's ordered by another Aes Sedai to go to sleep. And she thinks to herself that, yeah, she's going to sleep, and Theodrin can just deal with it. And then her perspective ends. And so, of course, we assume that, as readers, we assume that she went to sleep. I mean, she deserved it, and Theodrin can just deal with it. The next perspective we're in is Elaine's, and Elaine is just going about her tasks when it says in the text that a yawning, bleary-eyed Nynaeve joined her. And Elaine thinks to herself that despite the fact that she had heard an Aes Sedai order Nynaeve to go to sleep after the fight, Nynaeve had spent all night balancing on a crooked stool to keep herself awake. I love what this tells us about Nynaeve's desperation to channel. She never shares this with anyone, except for Theodrin, but that's only because her and Theodrin are working on this together. Theodrin's actually been given this task. Nynaeve's closest friends have no idea how important this is to her. I've talked about this in a bit more detail in my video about Nynaeve, but I think one of the core aspects of who she is that she is deeply insecure, especially at the beginning of her character arc. And I think her inability to channel without anger is a big source of that once she learns of it. And I think it is very telling, very revealing that she doesn't talk about it with any of her friends, that they have no idea how tender this point is for her, how sensitive she is, how much this hurts her, how demoralized she feels on this. She keeps this from them because I think she's deeply ashamed of it. And I love that in this moment we see not only her desperation, but also her determination. She is going to try whatever she can. She's going to keep trying to do whatever she can. As demoralizing as it is to keep failing, she is not going to give up. She is going to keep trying to break her block. And this moment lets us know so much about who she is. And I love it. So, okay, let's put this moment into the app. Nynaeve stays up all night after the bubble of evil in Saladar. Okay, so according to the Lesbonomics app, this moment is, wow. Okay, according to the app, this moment is someone on Reddit saying, "That's a really good point. You've changed my mind." Wow, that's intense. Yeah, okay. Wow. Okay, so these are the 5 moments that I discussed, and these are the results from the app. I'm still not exactly sure how this is going to help me put them in any specific order, but all right, there you go. A highly scientific analysis of some of my favorite Nynaeve moments. And if you want to, continue a conversation about this, if you disagree with me, please let me know. Tell me your favorite Nynaeve moments. Leave me a comment below. And I guess, you can also join my Discord. Love to talk with people on Discord about my videos, about opinions on Wheel of Time, about other nerd-related topics. I will leave a link to that in the description below. If you want to support me making videos like this and, get more involved, you can also check out my Patreon. That will also be linked in the description below. And as always, like, subscribe, and stick around for the art credits. Bye!